Well, this is it's an old 1998 Mazda Miata. I put a head gasket on here a couple years ago, and now it took another crap. Not from a result of my repair, but the owner doesn't primarily drive the vehicle and take care of what needs to be addressed, and that's a younger kid that's operating it now. And I'm pretty sure he drove it on H on multiple occasions instead of just getting it dropped off and letting me resolve whatever was potentially leaking. I had a lot of stuff replaced over the years, and I did wind up replacing the radiator. The water pump time belt hasn't been replaced in a while, so I'm not sure if that's what's leaking, but this go round when I'm doing the head gasket, I will be replacing the time belt and water pump and the dry belts and what needs to be replaced. So that's the plan. I'm just gonna snatch this head off, see what's leaking. I was thinking about just doing like a relative compression test. I don't know what's quicker. I can probably pull those spark plugs out fast as I can probably grab the oscilloscope and hook that up and then put it back. So I think no easier than what the cylinders are to gain access to. I might as well just go ahead and do a regular analog or just like a basic compression test. So I'm gonna let you hear it, see what it sounds like. I mean, it's pressure pushing out the coolant jackets, and it shows through the radiator fill port. And we'll get the head off and see what it looks like. I will say, once I got the car initially, I put water in it, and despite it running when it got here, it didn't want to run. So that was the indication that this head gasket is shot. Not sure what cylinder it is. Does it really matter? Yes, if I go ahead and look for which cylinder it is, because the head's going to come off, and I need to know specifically which one has the larger problem. And I can go really in depth as far as narrowing down like what's going on, but I think it's just I don't know till I pull it off. Because last cylinder head I had got, this is an eBay head. Last cylinder head I had got was fine off the internet. But the previous one, the reason why I had to replace it, that had a gouge in the center of it, and that's why I had to replace it, and it just wasn't worth repairing. So the previous head was broken. Hopefully this doesn't have that same issue, but we'll see. For those who despise this method, Alright. Let's get this. I started looking at the, oh, look at that. I probably might even have to do the compression test. I mean, this is pretty obvious. So we get the light to come on. So that's coolant. It's a clean plug. It does have a little bit of oil in it. It's not cool. So I'm kind of curious as to why that is. Depending on how the head blew, will cause this. Not all heads are created the same. And I just make them out. just want to be certain. Here's number 2. This is dry. So here's number 2. Number 1 was the wet one. Number 3 is wet. So 1 and 3 is wet. Let's see what number 4 looks like. Dry. So 1, 3 are our problem childs. Pull the head off. We'll just do a better inspection. And I totally mixed these plugs up too. I don't know which one goes where, but it's on camera that 1 and 3 are our problem childs. And like I said, it eats coolant, and it has, like, we obviously heard some low compression. I mean, overall, I'm pretty sure all the cylinders may have low compression, but I mean, that was pretty definitive. I'm just not gonna do it. I'd be honest. No point in doing a compression test when, I mean, it was pretty evident. I kind of feel a little guilty. I think if I didn't do the compression test, I'll probably look at it as a bad guy. Then no one would believe me that the head gasket's actually blown, because I could have put that fluid up there. Let's see if it'll stay. Do 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 do. All right, we got 90, 100, about 115 psi. Let's move on to the next one. That was pretty good for it to be blown. And the thing is, it's sucking in a lot of fluid. It's not pushed. Well, I guess depending on one cylinder is probably taking it in and pushing it out. Could have been a couple different things. It can do both depending on how bad it is, but that was pretty okay compression for a blown cylinder. Let's see what we got on this one. Head gasket's blowing so many different ways, and plus the engine's cold, so it's not warm. We'll get different reading. There's our problem child. That has 0 compression. There's nothing in there. Am I in there? Make sure I'm in there tight. I was thinking about that too. It's like probably the ones that don't even have fluid on there is the one that's defective. Yep, we got nothing. This one got like, yeah, nothing. So oddly enough, despite 1 and 3 having fluid on it, because these probably are the cylinders that are able to suck, create vacuum and some compression, so that's probably why we saw a lot more signs of a blown head gasket. Okay, so one cylinder is pulling fluid and one is pushing out. unless I have my compression tester improperly installed. It sounds like 3 out of the 4 cylinders are making compression. How it rotated. Could be equipment malfunction. Oh, we just actually got 2 cylinders that are working, 2 out of 4. So it's about 117 also. Cool. So 1 and 4 is producing compression. The mid cylinders are the ones that are broken, despite having fluid in number 1 and 3. All right. I don't know if it was worth making an indication on the valve cover what cylinders to check. I mean, hell, it's recorded. So we pull it off. Primarily check these, the 2 and 3. 1 is pulling in fluid, but I mean the head is just blown. It's jacked up anyway. I mean I'm pretty sure he ran this thing scorching hot. All right, well, I'm gonna cut on right on into it. I took the air intake hose off, pull the valve cover. We're gonna get that off, and then we'll get a better visual of what we got going on. Let's use this 10mm. This car does have modifications done to it. It has a header, an exhaust system, it's lowered, oil filter relocating kit, closed gear ratio transmission. This was a better cylinder head. Also, allegedly a higher flowing one. So boom, 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 boom. I don't think this doesn't go anywhere. Here's the inside of the engine, the upper cylinder head. And again, I put this head on here 2 years ago, which was clean. It looked great. I mean, it still does look great. This woman, before she let the car, the car go to her, I guess, stepson or whatever. You know, she kept the oil change regularly. She was very good at keeping the car up. We just had an unfortunate mishap about the head gasket failing. So, again, my biggest concern is the head gouged in between the cylinders? Is it trash again, or is the block cracked? That's one of the biggest problems when doing these head gaskets. So let's take a look. The water pump. I thought maybe that might have been leaking. Look at that timing belt. It still look really good. I probably could leave everything on here, but I just don't know, what causes this to fail, or because it has a leak. I mean, the worst thing it could be is the heater cord is leaking. Thermostat could have failed. I know I replaced this housing years ago. The previous owner. Oh gosh, I can't get a focus. We replaced this housing years ago. I did that. Yeah, I'm gonna get all that stuff in place. Cut away to several days later. I got the head cleaned up. I didn't take it out and get it dart, or not set dart, but shaved or anything, or decked, or whatever word you want to use. I just took some brake cleaner, some 1,000 grit pad, went around the block, the deck here, and just clean it off. This smooth, I'm gonna say it's not bad, and I'm not gonna break my neck over, because the biggest thing was getting this head shaved. That came back. I did not pressure test this. People are probably gonna have their differences about that. It was no need to being that it was taking fluid inside the cylinder. And once I removed the head gasket, this was the biggest gouge that was here. I don't know if I documented that or not. It was like 5 days ago. So I got new gaskets on the outlet housing here, and resealed the cam cap. They did do a cleaning on this. Wound up coming up like $112 or something like that. I guess the price of everything went up. Yeah, this EGR valve is deleted, so that's how they wound up doing it, instead of putting a blocked off plate here. So pretty much what's going to happen today, I'm just going to get everything back installed in reverse order and then redo a compression test. The oil, I'm going to get that changed later after I get everything running. There was no coolant that had mixed with the oil. It was just taking in coolant. So the coolant went into the cylinder chamber. It went into the cylinders. 2 and 3 were the main ones that didn't have any compression, but 1 and 4 was clean. So ignore the fact that the piston tops are clean now. I wound up taking a wire brush and going over that. And, so one thing I will say, I'm thinking about putting some copper spray on the head gasket. It don't need it, but for the fact that I've done this, this will be the second time I put a head gasket on here. I'm just kind of curious to see what the reassurance will look like. I can't remember if any was on there before. I mean, it don't look like it. I think that brown is just a little bit of rust, because yeah, I think that's probably a little bit of rust when it was coolant or water mixing and it got on the block a little bit. Maybe because it was sitting out, condensation accumulated on the deck and rusted out a little bit, but that's nothing. So it's completely smooth here. But just for reassurance, and you know, for those who are against it, I am going to put copper spray on the head gasket. I wound up getting a cheapo head gasket set from Rock Auto. It was a Engine Tech. I don't want to call it cheapo. These work fine. I've got these before and never had any issues. Rebuilt motors, customers' cars still working perfectly fine. So I think this is the wrong way. I'll put it back on there, right? I think that's yeah, that's the wrong way. I'll figure it out. Watch, I flip it around the incorrect way. I'll go this way. We did this in school, Brad. There we go. So I'm gonna spray some copper spray on it, let it dry. And the trick that I do to put this back on here is lift up the exhaust with a jack, slide the head on the manifold so it'll support itself, and then just slowly move it and work its way down so it wouldn't, I guess the best case of not having to remove the exhaust manifold or header and then hit those dowel pins here. So slide the head on with the intake, let it support itself, and slowly drop it and let it make contact with the head. Once it line up with those dowels, put the bolts in there and torque them down. All right, this is what I wound up using. Permatex copper spray. It's even got a picture of a head gasket on there. Like a, well, I don't know what kind of head. Anybody know what kind of head that is? Like an old Chevy head or something. It's overhead valve, not overhead cam. So, but anyway, I got a couple coats on here. It looks nice. Looks pretty at the moment. Want to see a close up? Looks good and even. It's gonna be different though when I try to get this head mated on here. Try to touch it. Let's set my prettiness. I hope I got it all right. Nope. Just the perfect way. Alright. That's what it needs to be. Funny story. I have put a head gasket on upside down before. Let's see here. I guess we all made mistakes though. Save that story for another day. All right. So this head is going to be heavy. Let's try to get this in there. Now the objective of the copper spray is to prevent water from entering the cylinders through the water jackets. And I want to pull this back off. Let's probably make it not pretty. Water jackets are going to be here around the chamber. So water could potentially enter from here inside the chamber and cause it a leak. At least this sealant here will create some type of protrusion when it just gets clamped down and provides some type of barrier. It ain't like the head gasket won't already do it. Just a little bit of insurance, reassurance. I've had to let it sit on the head gasket just for a little bit. I might have to lower it all the way and remove the jack. Okay. There, that should be right there. It's not as bad as it may have sounded. So the when I would move the head, I will elevate it and incrementally move it around so it fell into place. I'm gonna give it a minute. I got another car I got to work on. Then I'll get my head bolts and get those lubed up and installed. Now I will say this. There was a slight variant of plans from initially when I was putting this head on. I was going to do the time belt water pump, but I need to see specifically what was leaking. Time belt looked great. The water pump looked decent, but I'm questioning if the water pump may have been leaking. So I'm going to get it running, then do a pressure test. Because I wasn't sure if that pipe that wasn't connected in the back going to the heater core was loose, causing the car to lose coolant initially. So, and I just, but my luck of parts right now, I'd rather leave what's on it that isn't broken, because again, the time belt looked great, like a gate spring belt that's on here. I don't want to, I just kind of one of those liminal situations. If it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing right now. But everything else that I'm removing is brand new. So All right, I guess when I come back, it'll be running. This is days later. I've just been like messing with a bunch of other random stuff. But I got the head on, and when I went to pressure test the coolant system after installing the head, I discovered that the primary leak, obviously, is the water pump. You see the remnants of coolant down at the bottom. So I'm gonna get everything cleaned up, get the new water pump installed, despite me saying earlier that I wasn't really gonna worry about replacing the water pump and timing belt because of the condition. However, this happened, and then secondly, the timing belt was a little slack as a result of getting the head shaved again, which was no big deal. I just could have loosened the tensioner up and readjusted it. But in this case here, simply throw a new water pump on it, call it a day. And it's been a while since I put one on here. I wonder if I can get at the bottom, see where it was leaking. It's kind of like at the base. I wonder if the gasket failed, but definitely the weep hole have remnants of coolant loss. So where's that? I had to look at that crank position sensor. That you definitely want to make sure that joker's. Want to make sure that joker has good clearance. I'm going to get all that cleaned up when I get everything installed in reverse order. I am going to clean this off first before I start tearing into it. But I'm going to do a compression test once I get everything completed. And we'll definitely film that first startup. Making slow progress. Got the timing lined up. Mark at the bottom, the crank. Got the cam lined up. Now, it's supposed to be a back cover here, and I should have been able to look at the timing marks at the bottom. These little notches. But unfortunately, this doesn't exist, so what I did was count the teeth on a quick Google search, because I didn't feel like going on Identifix. And I count 19 ribs between one end to the other. Okay, and the cams are facing opposing directions, so we should be good on the timing. And next step is to get it started up, see what happens. Okay, I do believe I got everything hooked up, and I don't know where, I can't remember if this went anywhere. I don't know where this go. I'm gonna have to find out. I don't know if it went to the EGR or was part of it. I'll have to find it. If the check-in light pop on, then I'll look further into it. Until then, I'm gonna ignore that for now, because the crank sensor's in the front, so that's not the integral. I just can't remember what goes back there. It's just some other stuff that was deleted. I'll figure it out. So we got oil in there, most importantly. I don't have any coolant in there. Timing's on point. Got the belts, drive belts, filter housing, throttle linkage. All the vacuum lines are hooked up, just says 2. Cam sensors hooked up, crank sensors hooked up. Did a basic pressure test, so nothing's leaking. Spark plugs are tight. It's in time, I think. And I think that's it. This is gonna be the first startup. Mass airflow sensor hooked up, air temp sensor. Okay, this is the first startup. Watch the battery be dead. Let me get my camera stand and we're gonna start the joker up. All right, I forgot to put the bolt back in there. So here's the plan. It's either going to break and not work, or work and then eventually break. That's two options. That's it. We got an oil filter screwed on tight. Oil changed. I'm just going over it again. I know there's oil in here because I poured the oil inside that engine when I had the valve cover off. Belts are tight. All right, let's see what happens. Battery's dead. Be right back. All right, as the battery charger states, is ready. So this is an official startup. And it's a small battery, so that charger is the real deal from Super Start by O'Reilly's. So it does its job. All right, let's see what happens. Here we go. Here we go. Yep. Well, I'll be damned. It started right on up. I tried to prime it, but you have to bump the key over for it to prime. Well, shit. Whew. I usually just like bump it over, let it start up for a split second. Just come out here and check some things. Make sure there's no oil dripping or nothing spewing out. But usually if you had like oil coming from any orifice, you'll hear like this pinching, squeezing sound of fluid. So, I got coolant. Let me get it started. Pour coolant in there. See what happened. There's no pressure. Hopefully everything I put on was proper. It's running like slightly. Oh shit. Oh. Still got good youthful reactions. Oh. Coolant circulated, it dropped, got the air bubble out. It's running I don't want to say it's rough. Let me see if you got a bubble out. I think it's running slightly rough. I mean, it looked like it got too much movement to me. Oh, the timing's off point. It sounds good and revving up. I haven't seen this car in a year or so, and I just got it with the head gasket blown, so I wouldn't know. I have to sit in the car. Maybe it's just me. I mean, it does have motor mounts on it, which are rubber. I imagine it'll run a little bit more tidier, but it is like 20 plus years old. This is the check engine lights on. There's no check engine light, so that's an indication wherever that connector go to wasn't integral. Huh. I'm gonna let it run and idle for a while, make sure the heat works, make sure it goes through a heat cycle. And go from there, just take it on test drive, put about 20 miles on it and recheck it. Installing the head gas is pretty cut and dry. It literally don't get any easier than this. You don't have to take the cams out. The old days of bittersweet. Cool and circulated. Well, today's the next day. It just started up not too long ago. It's been running about 7 minutes. It was pretty steamy initially. I let it run yesterday, but last night I didn't let it go through a legit heat cycle. As far as the fans coming on and off on their own. So today I'll just check the oil, let it steam up a little bit, because when a head gasket did blow, it consumed the water, so it's going to naturally be in the exhaust system. So I'm going to take it on a drive the first time and see how it responds. I want to say it sounded like it was a little bit low on compression. It does have a little bit of blow by, but the ramifications of having a blown head gasket, and this head gasket blew twice, and it took in coolant, is potentially damaging the rings. But I don't think the rings are damaged, because I checked the blow by. There's no smoke coming out in the crankcase, nor is it crazy excessive. So we'll take it on drive. Might be worth doing a compression test, see what the cylinders look like, including it, see what it works, see how it's working. Not sure if you heard it earlier, but it did sound like there's some low compression on one of the cylinders or so. Like there's a slight drop. So I'm gonna do a compression test, see which cylinder is effective. Nothing else is gonna come about it, but it would be nice to know which cylinder is low on pressure. Now, before, if I recall properly, because like a week ago, I did check these two and 3, and these had 0 compression. So more than likely, that shit was hot. I'll use those. I'll just make note of those or put emphasis on them. So let's pull these sparking plugs out. I mean, overall it runs fine when you're driving. It's just starting up, and I think that shake and tremble at idle is what's, damn, I did say I was going to let you hear, but I think we heard it already. But I think that shaking during idle is contributed to the low compression. Number 1 looks great. These only have like 30 miles on them, if that. I probably would say about 15. Here's 2. Here's 3. Now this little bit of oil on here on my hand is because when I poured oil in the cylinders with the valve cover off a little bit, got into the 3rd bore. So that's what's on my hand. I'm gonna clean it off a lot better. Here's 4. Here's number 1. That is about 130, close to 140. glare off the screen. 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. Yeah, about 35. Hear it. It's got to be that one. I could hear it. Yep. Ooh, gosh, the compression is low. Yeah, this is 90. So as I mentioned earlier, that's the problem when you blow head gaskets. That's why a lot of us just typically just throw motors in there. But because of this age of this car, it's just not really worth it. I'm just gonna check 3. I'm not gonna worry about 4. I say a lot of stuff and then I do something totally different. I mean, I just wanted to confirm that one of the cylinders were low. And I guess it's important if we get the 2 main cylinders, then we'll have the information we need. Yep. So we're low on compression with that one also. That's even lower. I know I said I wasn't going to check number 4, but let's go ahead and check number 4. Because if that one is high, then we've sustained some type of damage to the pistons. It doesn't matter where I put the plug at anyway. They're all new. So if number 4 is fine, then there's likely some damage that occurred. The head gasket isn't still blown. That's not the case. It's pistons. Oh yeah, cool. Yep, kind of the same. So we're at 119 on number 4. So pretty much. Either I want to say I want to say the piston rings. Lightly, it's just a compression problem. Now it's just low on compression. The oil, it's different when there's low compression. You have bad oil rings and it just wasn't maintained. This car is well maintained oil change wise. It was just the higher the mileage, the more fragile the worn parts get. And I'm pretty sure if I was to pull the engine out, put some rings in here and inspect the pistons, that'll resolve it. But when you got competing pressures, then that fluid can't be compressed and you got water in there, and this was eating coolant, that get compressed, it's going to damage piston rings or ring lands. They can break, but the car doesn't have a lot of blow by. It does have it, don't get me wrong. It doesn't have smoke with the blow by, which is an indication that the oil isn't bypassing the rings and getting into the cylinder and being consumed or ate up in a volatile fashion. So more than likely the piston rings just got damaged once the head gasket blew. And again, this happened twice over the course of a couple years. And this car has how many miles on it? It has 177,000 miles on it, and this car does have modifications on it. The previous owner did drive this car pretty hard. It got like these course racing tires and stuff on there, so this wasn't just a granny's car to and from church. This got driven pretty aggressively at times. So, all right, I'm gonna conclude the video again. This has been like a week and a half, man. Because it felt like it was forever just to get this head gasket knocked out. If anything happens, I'll definitely let you know. But hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, and have that reassurance of my work. See you next one.